guys, it's Emma and I'm back today for you with another video, and today I'm going to be doing something a little fun, okay? I have a cup right here filled with every single vampire movie that I've ever watched, and I am going to be picking them out of this cup and describing them to you guys in one sentence, alright? My feelings, my thoughts, whether I like it, dislike it, the works. I'm gonna be spoiling probably a good chunk of these movies, so just be warned about that. Also, these are all my opinions, okay? My opinions are subjective. Movie watching, movie viewing itself is subjective. So before we start, I would really appreciate it if you guys would look down in the description box for all of the links that I have there for you guys pertaining to stuff going on in the world right now. For example, the genocide going on in Gaza, the slavery going on in the DRC, the war going on in Sudan, what's going on in Myanmar, amongst other things, okay? So all of those links will be down there for you guys to look at, to share, to interact with, and then down in the comments, let me know whether you like vampire movies, what your favorite vampire movie is, whether you agree or disagree with anything I say in this video, the works, right? So with that being said, let's just get right into it. Okay, all right, here's the first one, and we have From Dusk Till Dawn. I really liked the first part of it, how gritty it was, and then I did like the second part with Miss Salma Hayek. However, some of the vampires just didn't even look like vampires when they became vampires, and I remember thinking that a lot of the vampires could either be extras from Star Trek, or quite honestly could be like that orange monster from Underground in Big Trouble in Little China. It was a very strange combination. The next one that we have is Underworld, one of my favorite movies of all time, and honestly probably my favorite vampires versus werewolves movie, along with the fact that this movie is just pure like 2000s gothic superbity. Okay, especially with the fact that everything is so dark, the lighting is so contrasted, everybody's wearing leather, black haircuts. I love it. All right, and I just think that it's so edgy and it's so much fun, and it gave me nightmares. Next is Eclipse. I think the best Twilight movie, considering the culmination of plots and the introduction of other plots. I'm trying to be like fast with unwrapping these because I tried, one, not to coil them up too tight, and also because, what are you gonna say? Underworld Rise of the Lycans. You probably won't like this if you haven't seen the other Underworld movies, and it is just kind of a movie talking about stuff we already know. However, I loved learning about Lucian and just how the Lycans came to be, and the Lycans versus the werewolves and how they're different. And I just love this movie so much, and I don't know, I think it's my second favorite Underworld movie. Let's see. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. All right. When I was younger, I used to think this was the funniest thing on planet Earth, and I just really like being a cameo girl, all of these movie monsters in one movie, battling one another, finding out about one another, and these average Joes just caught in the middle. All right. Oh, I forgot to say, these movies are basically vampire movies that either have a vampire as the main character or vampire as one of the main characters, or like vampire as like the main horror aspect, if that makes sense. But next we have Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. Probably, I think this is probably my favorite old Dracula movie, and Christopher Lee, I don't know how much they paid you to make as many movies as Dracula as they did, but keep it coming, girl. Next, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Okay, again, as a cameo girl, I loved all of these literary characters coming in, teaming up, battling the big bad, and particularly I liked that it was Mina Harker and not, you know, Dracula or Van Helsing or somebody else from the book, but that it was Mina who was the vampire, and, you know, continuing that I guess, legacy. Also, I just really, really liked how her, I guess, vampire mechanics, how her vampirism was portrayed. All right, next we have Blade. Again, very early 2000s gothic vibe with everybody wearing leather and the lighting being very contrasted and everybody wearing black and just it being very edgy. And I don't know, my favorite scene that I quote to this day is this one.
Motherfucker, are you out of your damn mind?
Because I just think it's absolutely hilarious. And quite honestly, even though I talk a lot of shit about how many reboots and sequels there are nowadays, I personally cannot wait to see what Mahershala Ali does with Blade. Next, we have Fright Night. All right, now listen, this is not going to be my sentence describing it, but I feel like I need to put a little context right here, okay? This is the 2011 version. Okay, and the reason why is the 2011 version and not the 1980s version is because I, as a young girl, okay, when I went down to go choose a movie one night for family movie night, I remember vividly going through my sister's movie collection and she had the DVD of Fright Night, the original Fright Night, and the DVD cover, all right, I'm gonna put the DVD cover right here, and as a little 5-year-old girl, scarred me, all right, psychically. On to the actual sentence. Colin Farrell as a vampire in a white undershirt and slick back hair and a tool belt was one of the many stepping stones that I had in my life to me becoming a full-fledged woman, okay? And Colin Farrell in this movie, let's just say, changed me biologically. I'm pretty sure that movie was where I had like the blossoming of my crush on Colin Farrell, all right? It was pretty unhinged at the time, okay? Breaking Dawn Part 1. I'm gonna be honest, the only thing I remember concretely from this movie was Bella dying and her having that moment where she literally breaks her back, which quite honestly could be qualified as a body horror moment. All right, next we have Priest. Oh, Priest. Okay. Personally, I don't think this movie is as good plot-wise as the cast list or the atmosphere would lead you to believe. I think I watched Priest right off of the high of watching Legion, which is one of my favorite movies, which also has Paul Bettany, which, oh girl. Interview with the Vampire. One of my favorite vampire movies of all time, and quite frankly, it is just a huge stew of existentialism and gothicness, and I really, really enjoyed it because the whole thing is just really tragic when you really think about it. Let's see here. What do we have? The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Pretty decent slasher movie coming from a girl who doesn't really vibe with slasher movies that much. With a pretty decent air of just creepiness. And I liked the fact that this movie was based on Dracula, but the section where he's on the boat, because I've never seen that done before. And I thought that was such a cool premise. And I thought the ending was pretty damn good and tragic. And if I'm honest, I kind of wish that how good the ending was translated to the rest of the movie. But what are you gonna do? Okay, next, Out of the Cup, we have The Invitation. Okay, what I'm actually watching right at this moment. Another one of my favorite vampire movies because of simply the plugs that they put in from the original book and, you know, how they made them all fit into it, and the, I guess, plot point of the 3 brides being needed for Dracula. And I don't know, just I really, really love this movie, and I think it was one of my favorite movies of 2022. Yes. And I still stand by it. Next, we have Innocent Blood. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really remember much about this movie other than it's a vampire going after bad dudes and she messes up killing a mob boss whilst being hunted by a detective, and she and the detective have like a little romance, which I thought was kind of cute. But other than that, I don't really remember anything else. Bram Stoker's Dracula. Brother, what do I say about this movie? Okay. This movie has an incredible cast, is aesthetically beautiful as hell, and is unabashedly horny. And we love it. Next, we have Queen of the Damned. I'm gonna say this once and one time only. Aaliyah has saved, and did save this movie. All right. Through and through with just the expert way that she played Akasha. And like I said, if it hadn't been for Aaliyah, I would not have finished this movie. And quite frankly, let that fact stay undisputed. Okay, thank you. Night Teeth. An aesthetically techno vampire movie about vampires versus humans with a coup, and I thought a star-studded cast, all centered around the point of view of a limo driver, a human limo driver. Rise Bloodhunter. Lucy Liu as a vampire was not something that I knew I needed. And yet, here we are. But aside from the obvious rushing of the plot to fill this entire movie with something, I thought that Lucy Liu stole the show, as she always does. Let that remain undisputed. Thank you. Vampire Hunter D. Bloodlust. Oh my goodness, I need to like prepare myself to scream about this movie from the rooftops. I loved this movie because, one, the art style is sensational with the really contrasting and clashing colors, which we all know I love, the really harsh and slanted art style, the plot, the being really, really tragic, the plug for Carmilla, and I don't know, I just loved this movie so much, and I think it's quite frankly a pinnacle of like late 90s, early 2000s style anime. The Lost Boys, a classic vampire movie, another one of my favorites, and another one of my favorite 80s movies with a star-studded cast, and the soundtrack is banging, all right? Along with the fact that this movie is just hilarious.
You're a vampire, Michael. My own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire. Oh, you wait till Mom finds out, buddy.
Next up, on the chopping block, we have, oh brother, Underworld Evolution. This, I think, is my least favorite Underworld movie that I've seen. Probably because at this point in time, I don't remember much of it. Just that it was creepy, and that's it. I kind of missed Victor a little bit, if I'm honest. Van Helsing. Okay, this movie, once again, a pretty good statement to the whole aesthetic of the early 2000s vampire movies with the contrasted lighting and the leather, and just the plot in here was great with, again, the cameos of all these movie monsters coming in with Frankenstein's monster, the werewolves, Dracula, and Dracula's brides, because I love anything that has to do with Dracula's brides because I think they're so cool. And I don't know, the werewolves in this movie particularly were superb. All right. No, I don't think I'll understand. Van Helsing, on top of it being a great vampire movie, is one of my favorite werewolf movies, particularly because of what the werewolves look like. Dracula Untold. I love this movie purely based on it being kind of like a Dracula origin story because, you know, I mean, yeah, with Bram Stoker's Dracula, we do see, you know, how he became Dracula, but not to this extent. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. Not to mention Luke Evans' portrayal of Dracula was really, really good. Okay, next. Okay. Vampire Hunter D, the first one. While I give it credit for the time that it was made, the plot is a little dodgy, and she just doesn't hold up to her younger sibling. Next, we have Twilight. Whether you think the movie is good or bad, the soundtrack is banging. Who do we have here? Vampire Academy. As someone who's never read Vampire Academy, okay, when I watched this, which was years ago, I thought it was very entertaining, and I don't know if I would find it very entertaining now, and quite frankly, I don't think I would ever watch it again. So, sober, anyway. Let's see, we only have like a few left, y'all. Like, do y'all see that? We only have a few left compared to like how much is like scattered on my desk right now. We're doing pretty good. All right. New Moon. My favorite of the Twilight movies, and simply because it's the one with the most werewolves. Let's see, who do we have next? 30 Days of Night. I don't think I ever finished this movie because I realized it was gonna be like a slasher movie, and like I said before, I don't really like slasher movies. However, I have to give it credit. These vampires are probably some of the scariest bitches I've ever seen in my life, okay? And I wouldn't be opposed to watching it again. It does kind of help that, you know, it has Josh Hartnett in it, but what are you gonna do? I'm just a little kitten caught in a tree. Let's see here. Next, we have Salem's Lot. Now, I love drinking Haterade, okay? And I particularly don't like talking nice about Stephen King. But, Mr. King, I'll give you this, all right? Because Salem's Lot was terrifying for me and a pretty damn good vampire movie. And I don't wish to talk about it anymore. Okay. Breaking Dawn Part 2. A pretty decent culmination of events, even though some of those events were interesting, you know, with the imprinting, and that god-awful CGI baby that quite frankly never needed to be within range of my optic nerves ever. And, you know, I gotta give it credit for that pulling the wool over your eyes thing with the battle, all right? Because when I tell you the first time that I watched that movie, I was stunned. Alrighty. Byzantium. I didn't finish this movie. One, because I don't think I watched it at the right moment because I was burnt out. Two, because I was a little bored. And three, because I was afraid that a rape scene was about to happen. However, I don't think that I would be opposed to trying to watch it again. Right, we're coming down to the wire, y'all. Okay, I'm proud. Let Me In. For whatever reason, I was obsessed with watching this movie when I was 12 or 13. And it is still, today, one of the scariest vampire movies I've ever seen. And I vividly remember that when I was younger, I would not look at the TV screen whenever the vampire actually showed itself. And I just remember this movie being really, really creepy, but really, really fascinating at the same time. Next, the second to last one, everybody, that we have is vampires.
Had it my way, you wouldn't be in this video.
Brother. This movie is so heavily steeped in the male gaze that I'm quite honestly surprised that Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone weren't in it. And honestly, I don't know if they would have made it any better. Because this movie was fucking exhausting to sit through. And I didn't even sit through the whole thing. All right, and then the last one that we have, y'all, is... drumroll please. Daybreakers! One of my favorite vampire movies. What a note to end on. We love to see it. Daybreakers is one of my favorite vampire movies, like I said, in part because it portrays vampirism in like this deteriorating disease type of thing that's happening to the vampires themselves, and the vampires having to address this crisis of the possibility of their human population dying out, because then what are they going to eat? And I also really enjoyed this introduction of like a cure for vampirism being them having to shock themselves back to life with sunlight, and I just thought that was so cool. And lastly, I really enjoyed how this movie was shot, particularly one scene at the very end that I'm guessing was supposed to be metaphorical, with it being a slow-mo shot and all of these military vampires just tearing one another apart, and I really enjoyed that, along with the fact that I think this movie was what made me really have a crush on Ethan Hawke. So you guys, those were all of the vampire movies that I've seen. In one sentence. Probably not the most grammatically correct sentences, you know, because they had hella conjunctions, but what are you gonna do? So you guys, I hope that you have enjoyed. I hope that you will continue to look out for more stuff on my channel. I hope that you guys are staying safe, and I hope that you guys have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.